All right, today we're going to start the rolling down the river problem. So this problem looks at a few different types of sampling methods that we have already talked about. So hopefully you read the beginning so you kind of know what we're doing here. So part one, we're going to look at a few methods or a few sampling methods. So method one is a convenience sample. So remember, a convenience sample is not necessarily a good way to sample, but it is just an easy way to do it. Okay, so they've already done this one for us. So the farmer just said that these 10 plots right here would be easy to choose. So he marked those 10 plots and that's what he selected for this sample. Okay. So if you take a second and you read the paragraph below, he's starting to kind of second guess his method, and we're going to look at a few other types of sampling methods for him. So method two, we're going to look at a simple random sample. So it's telling us to use our calculator, or we could use a random number table. Let's just go ahead and use our calculator since it's a lot easier. We're going to choose 10 plots to harvest. Make sure you mark them, and we need to describe our selection. So let's go ahead and describe first. So remember, in a simple random sample, I need to label every member of the population. So I have 100 different plots here. They each need their own distinct number. Since I chose to use the calculator method, the way I number doesn't have to match my population size. Okay, so step one, I'm going to label the 100 plots 1 to 100. Okay, I went ahead and I put we're going to go left to right. That way it's easy if somebody was trying to do this. They could go ahead and replicate what you're doing. Okay, step two, we need to explain how we're going to use our calculator. Remember, so step two, we're identifying we're using the calculator. Whenever you use the calculator, you have to show me your calculator input. So we're using the random integer function. Our lower number is 1. Our upper number is 100. I know we're going to select 10. In this case, I'm just going to do one digit at a time. Okay, and then we're going to continue until we have 10 unique numbers, and we're going to select those corresponding plots. Okay, so now we actually need to do this. So step one is going to be the same for everybody. So we're going to label our plots 1 to 100. Okay, I'm only going to label a few. So basically what we're saying is, like, this would be plot 1, 2, 3, all the way to 10. Okay, this would be 11. And I'm going to keep going all the way across until I get to 100. Okay, if you chose to label up and down, that's fine. It is random, so it doesn't have to be the same. Okay, so now here's where things are going to get a little bit different. So on your calculator, we're going to go to the random integer function. So go ahead and go to math, go over to probability, go down to your random integer, and type in 1 in 100. Hit enter. Okay, so in my case, I got 13. So I'm going to put an X over where the 13th space would be. Okay, so that's one plot for my sample. I need to have 10 plots total, so you need to do this 9 more times. Okay, so go ahead and hit enter again. Whatever number you get, make sure you put an X over that corresponding plot. Okay, so I got 9. I'm going to put an X here. So I need to do this 8 more times. Your answers are not necessarily going to be the same as the person sitting next to you. So go ahead and pause the video because I'm not going to continue selecting, and find your 8 other numbers and make sure you end up with 8 or 10 total X's on this grid right here. Okay, so now you should have finished simple random sample. Now we're going to look at a stratified sample. Okay, remember, a stratified sample first groups the population, okay, and then it's going to take a simple random sample from each group. So this first part here, they're telling us we're going to group vertical columns. Okay, so I'm going to have groups right here. Okay, so I'm going to have 10 different groups. I need to make sure I pick an individual or a plot from each group. So I just have to pick one plot from every group if I want to have 10 plots total in the end. Okay, so we're going to start with group 1. So I'm only focused right here on this vertical column, this first one. Okay, so we're going to kind of follow the same process. You don't have to write out your steps over here. So we're going to say this is plot 1, 2, 3, all the way to 10. Okay, so I want to use the calculator again. So go ahead and go to your random integer function. And put in your lower is 1, your upper is 10. See what random number you get. So I got 8. I'm going to put an X on 8. Okay, so I picked my one plot from my first group. Since I had 10 groups and I need 10 plots, I just need to pick one from every group. So now I'm going to go to group 2 and I'm going to do it again. So here's plot 1, 2, 3, all the way to 10. Use your calculator, random integer. Get a random number between 1 and 10. I got 4. And that's the plot I'm going to pick in that group. Okay, and I'm going to do this again for column 3, 4, 5, all the way until I get to 10. So I should have 1x in every column. Okay, go ahead and pause and complete method 3. Okay, method 4. We're doing stratified sample again, except this time we're going to group horizontally. Okay, so now I still have 10 groups. Now my groups are going left to right instead of up and down. Okay, so same thing applies. I have 10 groups. I need 10 plots total. So I'm just going to select one from each group. So first row, if I label them, I have 10 total. So in your calculator, get a number between 1 and 10. You go ahead and put an X in that corresponding plot. Okay, we're going to do it again for row 2, 3, and then all the way till you get to 10. So again, you should have 10 different X's. Okay, remember, it is okay if it repeats. So if I get to row 3 right here, that's okay to have 2 of the same in that column because I only have 1 in that row, and I grouped by rows. Okay, go ahead and pause and complete method 4. Okay, so method 5, we're going to look at a cluster sample. Okay, remember a cluster, we're going to group again. And this time, whichever group I pick, I'm going to select every plot in that corresponding group. So it's telling us we're going to group by vertical columns. So my groups are going this way. So I'm going to have 10 groups. And I have to take every plot in that group, so I need to only select one column if I want 10 total. Okay, so I have the 10 different columns, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to 10. So in your calculator, go ahead and do random integer, 1 to 10. Whichever number we select, we're selecting that entire column. So I got 4, so I'm going to put X's in every box in column 4, and I don't have to do any more because that makes up my 10 plots right there. Okay, so now we've completed all the methods, so the 5 different types of sampling. I'm going to start you on this and then you're going to have to finish. Okay, so below they're giving us the yield per plot. So we want to estimate the average yield based off of each of our sampling techniques. Okay, so if we go to convenience sample, if you scroll or if you flip back to the convenience sample, remember we picked every column or every plot in column 1. Okay, so if I add up all those numbers and divide by 10, that's going to give me my mean yield per plot. Adding those up, you should get 60. Divide by 10. You should get 6. So we're saying from that convenience sample, on average, we think each plot has a mean yield of 6 based off of these 10 plots that we selected. Okay, so the estimate of the total yield, if each plot, if I'm saying it's about 6 and I have 100 plots, the convenience sample is saying we think the total yield is about 600. Okay, so you need to do this for the remaining 4 samples. Okay, so it is going to take a little bit of time because you have to remember which boxes you selected for simple random sample. Okay, so go and match those up with the numbers on the yield down here. Add them up, divide by 10 gives you your mean yield, multiply it by 100 gives you your total estimate. Okay, so do that for the remaining, and I will tell you in the end what the total estimate is. Okay, and then after you're done with that, you need to answer the part 2 observation questions.